or good afternoon or good night, whatever time you're watching this. Hello from over here. My name's Teresa, as you guys know, and this is the Sunday morning lesson. We have the craft, the game, the Bible lesson, the questions, all that stuff. So let's start off by just talking about how each of us are doing. So for that time, how about you share with whoever you're going to share with, and also an idea. You can pause the video, share with your parent. You can call a friend during this time and share with them how they're doing. So if you really need to take your time on this part, that's okay. But also don't forget to go back to the video, come back and watch the rest of it. So pause and share with this person, what did you have bad days this week or good days? And if you had both, maybe share with that person what that was like. It kind of has to do with the lesson today. So go ahead and do that sharing and then come right back to me. Thanks for doing a time of sharing. Hope you guys had more good days than bad days, but I know that there's both, right? Some weeks there's bad days and there's good days, and that's okay. I have my bad days and I have my good days. And I think either way, Jesus is good and he's the same through it all. And he gets to be the one to be with us in those bad days and good days. All right, just pray with me and then we will get into the Bible lesson. So dear Jesus, thank you for another opportunity to learn about you. Thank you that today's a new day. So if yesterday was a bad day, we can at least wake up and know that today's a fresh day and it's a new day and it's a new way of learning about you, God, a new way of getting to know you. So we thank you for that. Would this story really meet the kids where they're at and they can learn something new and fresh from it? And God, I just ask that if there is anything that these kids are going through, bad days or good days, or it feels like a storm, I ask that you would calm that in their life, and that you would just say, peace be still to that, Lord. It kind of has to do with the story today. So thank you for this story that we're going to learn, this really cool part of you, this part of you that brings peace to our chaos. So would you be doing that for the kids, God, and would you just help them where they are? We pray all this in your name. Amen. Thanks for praying with me. All right, let's get started on this Bible lesson this morning. So before we do, let's take a look at what's in our packet today. So I have the crafting game schedule, and one thing I want to point out to you guys on here is, you see how it says Unit 24? Unit 24, and it says Jesus the Miracle Worker. So we go by series, and then we go by unit, and then we go by session or lesson in that unit. I just want to share with you the breakdown of that in case if you're like, why is the order the way it is? We do it that way. So today we're in a new unit. But before we discuss that, let's do the recap of last week's lesson. Do you guys remember what we learned last Sunday or last time you watched the video? Now you could go cheat and go just click on the other video and find out from that, but there's no good in doing that, right? So how about instead of doing that, really take a moment and really try to think and see what is the first thing that pops in your head about last Sunday. A person's name, a verse, the scripture we were in, the story, the theme of it, or what part of Jesus were we learning about? So last week we finished the unit, Jesus the Teacher, and the last thing we learned about was Jesus was the Good Shepherd, remember? And there was a lot of analogies that were being used with that, and Jesus was talking to a crowd of people, saying that he's the Good Shepherd. And there's this scripture verse that even says, Jesus says, he says, I know my sheep and they know me and they follow my voice. So Jesus is our shepherd, and we as sheep get to know who he is, and we get to know his voice. Kind of like you kids, you know your parents' voice out of anyone's voice. you can tell your parent's voice immediately. And actually, when a baby's born, they recognize their mother's voice. No one taught them to do it. They just know how to do that. And I feel like that's kind of what it can be like in our relationship with God, is the more we hear his voice, the more we know what it is and what it sounds like. And I think of that with a shepherd. You know, a shepherd, they use their staff and they use different ways of moving the sheep and guiding them. But also, I think a shepherd uses their voice. And so the sheep have to know what the shepherd's voice sounds like to know where the shepherd's guiding them and leading them. So we just saw this whole picture of Jesus being the good shepherd to us, and that we are the sheep and he takes care of us. So if you want to know more about that lesson, revisit the other videos, the one for last week, and you will find out more about that. So for this week, we are in the same series called Jesus the Servant, and we learned about 2 units so far. The first unit was Jesus being the healer. The second unit that we just ended last week is called Jesus the Teacher. And now we're in a whole new unit, which means that we have a new key passage that we can read before we start. The unit is called Jesus the Miracle Worker, and I pointed that out to you when I showed the paper. So this is going to be focusing on stories of Jesus being this miracle worker, like Jesus doing miracles. And you are going to be blown away, and you're going to be like, that was a miracle, by when you start to hear and learn these stories. So let's do the key passage. So pull out your craft and game schedule right here. And the key passage for today is Psalm 45. So I'm going to pull out the Bible and take my time finding it. So Psalm 40. Psalm is kind of the book in the middle of the Bible. And it was written by David and a lot of other authors. You guys know David and Goliath. So that David wrote a lot of the Psalms. And Psalms is a really good book for you to read when you feel like you need comfort or you need someone to relate to. And that's Psalms. I read Psalms like when I go to bed at night, when I feel scared a lot. I read Psalms when I'm overwhelmed, when I feel misunderstood. Psalms is just a really comforting book to read. So we're in Psalms 40 verse 5. So I'm going to read it for you guys. So this is the key passage for this whole unit. And I'll read it to you sometimes and sometimes I won't. But today I'll read it so you know what it is. And you can study this and memorize it on your own. So it goes, many, Lord my God, are the wonders you have done, the things you have planned for us. None can compare with you. Were I to speak and tell of your deeds, they would be too many to declare. That is an awesome verse. It's basically saying, God, what you have done, your miracles, your wonders, and God has done miracles and wonders, right? The person who wrote the psalm is saying, it's too much for me to even tell you. I can't even keep track of all of it. And so it has to do with Jesus being this miracle worker, because who can keep track of all the miracles that Jesus has done in the Bible when he was on earth, and who can keep track of all of the miracles that God does in our life on a daily basis? Every day God is doing a miracle in our life, whether we see it or not. And so it's like, yeah, who can keep track of that? Like, it is a mystery. It's mind-blowing. It leaves us in awe, and it's also just I think it makes you feel incredibly loved by God and incredibly special that he would do those miracles for you. So today we're going to be learning about Jesus doing a miracle, and it has to do with his disciples. So he's with his disciples in the story, and his disciples were 12 guys, and they were like his friends. But Jesus was also teaching them about himself and a God, and teaching them about all this stuff. So he's with his 12 disciple friends, and they're in a boat, and that's all I'm going to say. And I'm going to have you find out what the rest of the story is on the video. So come follow me, and let's do the video.
Jesus spent all day teaching crowds of people near the Sea of Galilee. That evening, Jesus wanted to cross over to the other side of the sea. So Jesus and his disciples left the crowds. They got into a boat and began sailing. Some of the people from the crowds followed in their own boats. While Jesus and his disciples traveled, Jesus fell asleep on a cushion at the back of the boat. All of a sudden, a storm came. The wind was strong and the waves crashed into the boat. Water was coming into the boat and the disciples were afraid. Many of the disciples were fishermen. They had survived storms on the sea before, but this storm was different. It was so strong. If the water kept coming in the boat would sink. Surely they would all drown. The disciples looked to Jesus for help, but Jesus was still fast asleep at the back of the boat. He didn't seem to even notice the storm. Did Jesus care if they were about to sink into the sea? The disciples woke up Jesus. "Lord, save us," they said. "We are going to die." Jesus opened his eyes and saw that his friends were afraid. He got up and spoke to the wind. Then Jesus said to the sea, "Silence! Be still." At the sound of Jesus' voice, the wind stopped blowing and the waves stopped crashing. Everything was calm. The disciples were safe. Jesus looked at his disciples and asked, "Why are you afraid? Do you still have no faith?" Did the disciples not trust Jesus to take care of them? The disciples were amazed. "Who is this man?" they asked each other. "Even the wind and the waves obey him." Jesus' disciples knew Jesus was a good man and a good teacher. But when Jesus calmed the wind and the waves, he showed his disciples that he is also God. God rules the sea and stills its waves.
Wow, what a miracle! That story was crazy to me. What did you guys think? Oh my goodness. Well, guys, the first question on this Bible lesson question sheet is, what is the worst storm you have ever seen? Were you scared when you saw it? So think of something, and I'm gonna think of a storm that I've seen. I mean, it could be a storm that you saw on TV. It could be a storm that you've actually saw in real life or you've been part of. I know a storm. It's more so a hurricane, but it scared me. So I used to live in Florida, and Florida, there's so many hurricanes. If you talk to your parents about it, they'll probably say yes. There are a lot of hurricanes there. And so there was this one hurricane that my family and we had to evacuate our house and go live somewhere else for the week that the hurricane was hitting where we lived. So we left, we packed up our stuff, we put shutters on our windows, which is basically like this metal material, and it's supposed to protect your house from the hurricane. And so we left and we were safe and everything, and we got back to our house after that week, and the hurricane was so bad that it literally tore apart like our backyard pool, and we had this netting over our pool. It was like a net fence thing, and it was destroyed. And the other houses but our house was fine. Our house was not destroyed at all. Our house was still there. But the house next to us was completely destroyed. So just coming back home, even though I didn't go through that, like coming back home and seeing the destruction of that hurricane was really scary for me. And I've seen like storms, I've seen tsunamis hit places before. I've been in a thunder lightning storm. There was this one time I was living in San Diego at the time, and the weather's kind of random there sometimes, but there was a really bad storm one time, and I was living, my family and I were living on a house on a hill. And so we were really close to the lightning strike because we were on a hill. You don't want to be high up when lightning strikes. And I just remember walking out into my living room and looking out the glass window to look at the lightning or the storm, because I was fascinated by it as a little kid. And I remember just seeing this flash of light like right in front of my eyes. It was so bright, it literally knocked me over on the ground. And I realized it was lightning, because as soon as I saw the light, I heard the thunder immediately. And so lightning literally struck a tree right next to our house. So that's the closest I've ever been to lightning, and that was probably an example of me being in a storm. Pretty bad, because the lightning could have totally struck our house. So I was definitely scared. So I hope you guys were able to think of a storm that you've been through, and what was that like for you? So the disciples were scared of the storm, and right? I mean, we can see that. It wasn't it cool that they had all the paint strokes and they were painting the story. I like that part. So they were scared of the storm, but Jesus wasn't. Jesus was asleep. That doesn't make any sense. Why wasn't Jesus afraid of the storm? Why do you guys think Jesus wasn't afraid of the storm? Maybe just because he's God? That could certainly be part of it. But Jesus is human too, so he feels things that we do as a human. So why wasn't he scared? What do you guys think? Maybe Jesus wasn't scared because I think a big part of it is because he's God. And Jesus, I think, he believes and knows that he's in control. And it's not the kind of control that we try to have when we're scared, because I think when we're scared, we try to get control or feel control as a way to deal with that fear. And Jesus, he wasn't trying to get it. It was like he knew he had it because he was God. And so everything was under control inside of him, but not to the disciples. And also, possibly, Jesus can see beyond the physical world. The disciples, all they could see were the waves right in front of them, where I think Jesus saw something more. He saw a teaching moment. I think he saw the sun behind the clouds. Like, Jesus just sees things the way we don't. And maybe that's part of why he wasn't scared. This is just my opinion because he just saw it differently than disciples. He perceived it differently. And how much more do we need that in our life? We constantly need Jesus to show us how to see things differently than how we do. So the disciples had a hard time believing that Jesus could save them from the storm. Do you believe that Jesus can save you when you need help? So it's a little bit more of a personal question. And also, guys, remember that these disciples are Jesus's friends. So there should be some trust in their relationship. And the disciples are also banking on the fact that Jesus is God. So they are trying to have faith that that's true and real. And then this moment is happening of the storm, and it's another thing of faith. You know, faith, guys, means like we believe something we can't see. And I think the disciples were having a hard time with that with Jesus. Like, they saw Jesus sleeping, so they stopped believing in him to care or to save them or to do something. And we see in the story, Jesus did, and Jesus was in no rush to do what he was going to do. He did it in his own time, and that was the perfect time. And so, I just think of that with the story of the disciples. I would think would obviously know and believe that Jesus is going to save them because they've been friends, they've been through a lot, but it clearly shows that they don't quite trust Jesus, and they don't have 100% faith in him. So the personal question, guys, is, I'll just ask it again. Do you believe that Jesus can save you when you need help? Think of things that you need help with, and do you believe Jesus can save you? And I'll say for myself, there are certainly times that I do not believe that. I don't believe Jesus can save me from things. And I think maybe you fall into that category. A lot of us might, and that's okay. It's really hard to have faith in Jesus. It's hard to trust him, but it is so worth it, and we need to get to that place in our life. And there are certainly times that I have believed that Jesus will save me, and he did. Like, times in my life where he had my back, where things that went the way they did shouldn't have went the way they did. And just because Jesus was on my side, and I believed in him, he saved me. And I think of this storm in the story is like in our life. We have storms in our life that we need help with, that we need saving from. And the fact that you're here and you're breathing and you're alive, I think shows and proves that Jesus has saved you from so much in your life. And he was only going to keep saving you. And it might not look like the way you want it to, but I can guarantee that it will be beautiful and good and worth it. and it will be for God's glory. So let's go on to questions from kids and just learn how to apply the story. And then we'll talk about the questions from kids just to get to dig in a little deeper to the story. So come follow me and let's do questions from kids.
Hi there, I'm Pastor Brian and it's time for questions from kids. Charlie from Albany, Georgia asks,
why do we have bad days?
oh, Charlie, we all have bad days. That is the reality of life. This is a great question that I think is really going to be helpful for a lot of people. So the short answer is this. We have bad days because we live in a fallen world. God's design was for there to be no bad days. If you think back in creation, Genesis 1 and 2, there were no bad days that were orchestrated for Adam and Eve. If you think about what awaits us in eternity, Revelation 21 and 22, there are no bad days there either. It's all in between because of sin that we have bad days. And it's this way. So sometimes I have a bad day because I'm just not walking with Christ and I'm sinning. And that's going to be a problem, right? And I'm going to have a hard, difficult, bad day because of my own sin. There are other days that I might be having a bad day because of the sin of others. Maybe somebody's wronged me, and that's hard, hurt my heart. And so it's hard to have those kind of days. Other days, it's just the situation in life. I'm going to be sitting in a lot of traffic. That's a bad day. It's not because of maybe sin directly. It's just the reality of life. And so all these things can happen and give us hard, difficult days. But here is what we have to remember, that these days are temporary. God has given us this great gift called sleep, hasn't he? Think about it. You have a really hard day, and then you're able to go to bed at night, and it may be hard to fall asleep because those things are still replaying, but eventually you drift off to sleep. And what happens? You wake up the next day, and it's a new day. It's a gift from God. It's a fresh start. You can put that bad day to end. You can put it to bed. You wake up then, and you have a brand new day and say, today's going to be different. And God can bless you, and you can have the greatest day ever right after having that bad day. So we remember that it's temporary, but also remember that even if that bad day feels long, even if you wake up the next day and you have another bad day, here's the reality, here's the beautiful truth. God is with you. He's right there with you. You can turn to him. You can sigh to God and say, this is hard. And you know that God knows this because Jesus experienced bad days as well in his ministry on earth. So we have a God who loves us. We have a God who cares, a God who knows that we can go to for encouragement. We also have one another. When you're having a bad day, God has given us this gift in one another. You can go to parents or a friend or a teacher and just share and be encouraged by one another and be encouraged to hang in there, to get through it. As God is with you, we have one another to love us through it as well. So here's a question for you. How can you encourage someone who is having a bad day?
That one simple question, why do we have bad days? Do you guys ever ask that question? I certainly do. Can you encourage someone who's having a bad day? Or how can you encourage someone who's having a bad day? What are some things you can think of? I just think of, if someone having a bad day, just simply say, I love you to them. Or smile at them, hug them, buy them as a treat, take them out for dinner somewhere, or deliver dinner to their house. Like those little things, or even just send them a note of, I think you are amazing and you're doing a great job. Just words of encouragement. Right? Those are just some examples, but I want you guys to think on your own. How can you encourage someone who's having a bad day? Because guys, everyone has a bad day, and you can guarantee that everyone has a bad day, including me and you. And so that means there's always opportunity, and there's always a chance to encourage someone who's having a bad day. When was the last time you had a bad day? And what made it bad? Because I think what might make someone's day bad for that person is not the same bad day for someone else. our bad days look different. My bad day would look different than what your bad day is because we all have different definitions of bad. And at the same time, there is a general bad, that we can all agree on that's bad. But I just think it's going to be unique and different for each person. So think of that. When was the last time you had a bad day and what made it bad? I'm trying to think for myself, just to be honest with you guys. Well, there was one day, it was good and bad, but bad, there was this one weekend that Bryce and I were putting kind of an event on, and it was just so busy and hectic, and I did not have any moment to just relax. So that was a bad day, and it was bad because I didn't have downtime, and downtime is really important for me. So does knowing that God is with you help you even if you were having a bad day? It's a really good question. What do you guys think? Does knowing that God is with you help you even if you're having a bad day? So be thinking about these questions. We'll do more on journaling and coloring page time. But that wraps up the Bible lesson this morning. Thanks for listening. Now let's go on to the game. Come follow me. Hello. So the game for today is called Indoor Storm. So you're going to split up the kids into 3 smaller groups. If you don't have groups, just play with as many that is there with you. Assign each group a role: rain, wind, or thunder. Ask each group to make noises that correspond to that sound in a storm. Kids can slap their thighs for rain, whistle for wind, and make thundering noises with their mouths. Boo! So create a storm in your house. You can use props, you can use blankets, pillows, whatever you guys want. And the purpose of this game is, well, first of all, that sounded like a huge storm to me. I can hear your storm from here. Thankfully, we weren't in any danger, right? You doing this storm in your home, you're not in any danger. It's all pretend, right? So today we learned about a real dangerous storm and how Jesus responded to it. So the storm that the disciples went through and Jesus went through, it was real. It was not pretend. It was real. And they were really scared. And so the real storms you go through, Jesus is with you in that. And you don't have to be afraid because he's with you, right? In the real storms, not just the pretend ones. Hope you guys have a fun time doing that, and you can kind of feel the story and get another perspective on the story by doing the game. Now that we're done with the game, we're going to go on to journaling and coloring page time, so come follow me. So there, I have the journaling and coloring page with me here. This is the coloring page. It's for you little ones, but you older ones can do it as well. So color in the front, and then if you flip over to the back, it says before and after. And how you do this game is you find and circle at least 7 things that are different between the 2 versions of the Bible story art. So 7 things that are different, and I'm sure you can tell what the difference is. What's different on the top than on the bottom? And I'll do one for you guys. So I'm gonna circle this. What's different is this pot is floating on a crazy wave, and this pot is floating in a beautiful, calm, serene light and wave. So that's the difference that I found, but you do one yourself, or do the rest yourself, and go to this column, and right here is just more resources and more things you can do. Bible story summary, key passage, big question, a big picture question, family discussion starters, and family activity. Check those out. The journal page is right here, and we were in the book of Matthew chapter 8, Mark 4, Luke 8. So all those gospels talk about this story. So if you want to get different perspectives from each author of the gospels, you can do that and look up those verses. This journal page is for you older kids. This is more of the story outline right here. Check that out. These are individual questions you can answer for the journal page time, or you can answer my overall question at the end. And then check out the family discussion starters. Flip to the back. Here are activities. The first one is word scramble. So you're going to unscramble the words up here. I'll do one for you guys. First word that I unscrambled is that word, see. And then drop down to the activity in the bottom and it says see scene. Draw the scene for each passage of today's Bible story. So this is gonna require you getting your Bible and looking up these references, and you're gonna be drawing them into these boxes right here. So get to that. The overall question for today is, it's going to be, do you believe Jesus can save you from your storm? And who can you share that with this week? All right, that wraps up journaling and coloring page time. Come follow me to craft, and that will be the end of the morning. Hello, welcome to craft time. So we have 2 crafts this morning. I will do first the craft kit, and then I will do the next one after that. So this is a craft kit. You should have 4 items. This wheel, this tiny little piece right here, this, and this big foam sheet. So what you're gonna first do is you're going to get your circle and you're gonna line it up with this little dot in the middle, and you're going to get your little nail right here and poke it right in the middle, and then on the back you are going to fold it. Parents, I encourage you to help your kids out this part. And the reason you're doing that is so that the wheel can spin. And then you're gonna open your packet up right here. And the instructions are in here in case if you missed it, but I can help you with the rest. Okay, so actually we were supposed to also put that one in or on top of the big circle right here. So we're gonna be doing this. There we go. Okay, so I will show you what I did here. Poke the nail through all the holes right here, and then you can do that again. And now we have Jesus and his disciples right here, and so it can all spin. And then you're gonna add on the waves afterwards, and it should look something like in the picture, like that. So put this on here, and then so it should be something like that. And then when you spin it, one second, I kind of get, so the sticky part, if it sticks onto the circle won't really spin as well. There we go. And then you spin it like that. And that's that craft. And then lastly is the other craft. This is a more open-ended craft. You have craft sticks, blue paper, cardstock paper, and all you're gonna be doing is cutting out shapes. So you can get your waves, cut out your waves. I think I wanna cut out a cloud. You can cut out, a sailboat. And those little shapes that you cut out, you are going to be gluing them onto the craft stick. Whoops, my glue stick's a little. So you're gonna be gluing them on like that. That's my sailboat right there. I'm sure you guys can get way more creative than that. And this will be like my cloud. So these are just examples. And then you're gonna get your waves. And I'm only gonna glue on half. So I'll kind of show you what I meant. So I only put glue on this side and this side and not in the middle, because you want to make sure that you can slide in your craft stick and your shape through here, like this. And it's going to take some time for your craft stick to dry so that you can do this, like this, pop up, and it goes like this, and you can move it around this one. And that will be that craft. And you can make as many shapes as you want, as many colors as you want. It's totally up to you. And you can do different colors of papers if you have that at home. I just provided the blue because I just thought blue was the ocean. So that wraps up our craft time, our morning, our Bible lesson. Thanks for watching, guys. And remember that Jesus is in the storm with you. So if you're going through a storm right now, I hope this craft can remind you that Jesus is in that storm with you, and the game can, and all the things we did this morning can just remind you that you don't have to be afraid because Jesus is with you. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.